Greetings and welcome to our daily walk through the scriptures for June the 12th. Your readings for today have found you in 1 Kings chapter 11, 1 Kings chapter 12 verses 1 through 19, Acts chapter 9 verses 1 through 25, Psalm 131 1 through 3, and Proverbs chapter 17 verses 4 through 5. We're going to start in 1 Kings chapter 11. Now, if you remember early when we were reading about Solomon, there was a statement that was made that Solomon's heart was not fully devoted to the Lord as his father David was. And this is when Solomon was sacrificing up at the mountain prior to his dream. Well, we see that same verse repeated here, that same phrasing repeated here in verse 4. As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David, his father, had been. Now there's a couple things. Now, first of all, you're probably looking at this going, Jeremy, I don't have 1,000 concubine wives, 700, whatever. I don't have all that, so I don't have that danger. That's true. You probably don't. But what do you compromise on? See, we don't necessarily realize that small decisions can have a profound effect on the direction of our lives, on the profound effect of how we end up. I'm willing to bet that if young Solomon sat next to old Solomon, he would be amazed at how far old Solomon fell away. He'd look at it and go, how could you let this happen? How could you do this? And yet the thing about it is that we also can do the same thing. Maybe it's compromising a financial choice. Maybe it's taking a shortcut when you shouldn't take a shortcut. Maybe it's saying, you know what, I'm tired, I'm not going to go to church today, and suddenly it's been weeks since you've been to church. It always starts with something small, just some small little compromise. And much like if you're following a compass, one of the important parts about using a compass is taking azimuths on occasion, meaning that as you're going, if you don't stop and every now and then do a course correction for your compass, you could end up veering off. Even just one little degree can take it and take you, and suddenly you're divergent in massive ways. This is how it works for us when we compromise. When we choose to make small compromises, it can impact us in great ways. For Solomon, he chose to act like a king. He chose to be a diplomat. He chose to live in his flesh and have all of these different women that he loved. And it ultimately ended up costing him greatly. It ultimately ended up costing the kingdom here. Because as we see, it greatly angers God that Solomon falls so far away that he begins to actually worship other gods. And so God says, I'm going to tear it away from you. But it's not going to happen with you because of out of love for David. And then the king starts talking about, First King starts talking about all of the different enemies that come up. And finally, Solomon passes, and it goes to Rehoboam. And there's an opportunity here to save the kingdom, but Rehoboam instead chooses to be even harsher. Now, remember earlier when I told you to pay attention to all of the extravagances and the expenses that Solomon had? This was something that was promised by God actually way hundreds of years ago when the Israelites originally asked for a king. And he said, if you ask for a king, you need to understand that he's going to tax you. He's going to take your sons and put them to work. He's going to do all of these things. He's going to take them from you. Well, this is exactly what happened. The people of Israel were burdened by Solomon's grandeur and wealth. It came at the cost of so many people. Rehoboam had a chance to change the course, and instead, what he decided to do was be even harsher. And it cost, because the people rebelled and said, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. So really heavy stuff there from Solomon, and really great warning to us to pay attention to what it is that we're doing. Now, the other part of it is I want to talk very briefly about persecution. There are people that if you've recently crossed the line of faith, you recognize that you get met with all sorts of different reactions. Some people are going to be very excited for you. Some people are going to be pretty skeptical of you. And some people are going to be downright hostile to you. And some of it has to do with our zeal and our passion and our excitement for the change that we've experienced, and we want to share it with many people. But you will have some people that will look at you with derision, look at you with scorn and go, whatever, I know who you really are. This isn't you. This isn't you. And they look at you and they respond with anger. Saul, in his enthusiasm, tried to help people see the way, the truth, and the life. They didn't respond in a healthy way. So much so that Paul had to be let down in a basket over the wall at night so that he didn't get killed. We're not necessarily going to face kill, but we are going to face derision. we're going to face people that aren't going to respond in healthy ways. And so we have to make sure that we stay the course. We have to make sure that we understand that we're going to face more persecution when we become a follower of Christ, not less. We're going to face more difficulties in our relationships, not less. But the difference is we have the Holy Spirit. We have the peace that surpasses all understanding if we're willing to do it. Okay, there's our thoughts for today. We'll talk more tomorrow.